What's up, guys? I actually have a lot of praise for Ren Lin, but let's get into the caveats first because it's not that simple. Let's go into the story. He's disqualified from the live poker tournament for assisting player at the online final table.
I have the unfortunate news presented to me that Tony Ren Lin was accused of cheating and banned from GGPoker.
We know this is cheating, although it's a minor form of cheating, and final table makes it much more serious, of course. Tony Ren Lin was one of the top high-stakes poker pros in the world. He's disqualified from Day 2 of the World Series of Poker because he helped his friend at a final table. That's the general story here. Real OA, according to the third place finisher, shared a screen with other poker players during the final table, allegedly including Lin. The winner got real-time advice from other players to gain unfair advantage over their opponents. GGPoker's online poker security ecology states every decision at the poker table should be made free of external assistance. We all know this. Of course, this is like the best spirit of the game, etc. And as a GGPoker ambassador, he's not supposed to do that. He's supposed to represent fair play. And they said that it played a key role in the victory. I don't know about that. I'm sure it helped, but that's not really how things work because we're playing poker here. There's lots of luck. There are, people say, he totally should have known the rules, even if he said he didn't know the rules, which is suspect. Like how could he have played this long and not known the rules, realized he was doing something wrong, whatever. I totally empathize or totally understand the argument that, yes, he should definitely know the rules as an ambassador. It's like one of those things where you got to know the protocol, know all the ins and outs and details of thing as an ambassador. That's part of his responsibility. So this is a clear mistake of negligence, at least, right? So now we're going to get to the praise part in a bit. He says that he didn't know that it was bad. Well, he says it's quite common and normal, and yeah, he didn't feel like it was bad. That can happen. The Overton window of what people think is right or wrong, especially in cultures where people do things that happen to be wrong, which, by the way, is our culture. We all do things that are wrong all the fucking time, like flake on meetings. That's a form of cheating people's times, even though people don't want to think about it and become accountable and decide not to do it. And we're going to see where I think he actually makes a positive difference. So what happens is he gets caught. He issues a public apology, says he's sorry and that he should not have done this. And he fully accepts all consequences. If we are to look at things in an isolated perspective, he actually takes the consequences for everybody. He takes the consequences for almost all people in a way. And to look at it as an isolated instance, he's actually taking on a lot of injustice because there are loads of people that have done these sorts of things and just gotten away with it. And they are not accountable. And no one has absolutely ever come forward and outed themselves as this kind of person that they've done something wrong by sweating their friend. Now, when has this happened? When has even someone paid any money as a consequence of this? And he goes on, I don't know if he was forced to pay. I don't know if he did it of his own volition, but he paid $100,000 for sweating his friend at a final table. There's no chance that whatever advice he was giving this friend was worth $100,000. I'm sorry. No fucking chance. It was a massive multiplier, whatever it was. So it was in an isolated incident. He actually incurred wild injustice. But because of the fact that it's incredibly hard to catch people doing real-time assistance, as in via, in general, even with the software or with sweating a friend on the whole, there should be, from GGPoker's or anyone who's interested in integrity's perspective, a massive multiplier on the penalty because of the fact that people just never are accountable at all and they just totally get away with it, etc. And to make a punishment like this, especially on one of the representatives, really sends a strong statement saying, hey, this is not cool. We're not tolerating this, etc. And if you do get caught, I know it's hard to get caught, but if you do get caught, the penalties are very severe. So in this sense, it makes sense from their perspective to equalize things by issuing this large multiplier. And on a broader scale, you can say there is, in fact, perhaps some justice. On the whole, he's actually taken the role of something like a scapegoat or something like an example to be set for the rest of everyone. But this may appear to be a bad situation, but in fact, it leads him to be the example for other people to follow, to see, hey, to be accountable, to be the setter of change. In mythology, scapegoats were actually revered because while, yes, they seem to be victims of their own fate, they actually had the power to create the change of society that was wished to be seen. Through Ren, it's possible to see, hey, we can be accountable and we can change the poker world and understand that this is not good and this is something that should not be tolerated. And because of the fact that he was accountable, now other people can follow his example and be inspired by what he's done. I should also add that loads of people are condemning him, saying what a scumbag he is, or how could he not know that he had done something wrong, etc. It adds no value to condemn him because he's already gotten that. He's already gotten the punishment, and even wildly more so for what he's done in extreme. And you can even say and see that he was accountable for all and people on the whole. And that deserves great praise. So that is why I give him great praise, because he was essentially like the scapegoat for everyone. If you think about it, he took the injustice for himself for the sake that everyone may pay in a sense for their crimes, even though that's not fair for everyone. I would say on the whole, GGPoker has accounted pretty well for integrity in this case. People say they're not that interested in integrity. I've seen otherwise. Totally, that there's a lot of evidence that they're interested in integrity, and this shows it. That being said, I do want to give them a bit of critique for something called the olive branch program, whatever it's called, something to do with olive branches. So they decided to give the people who were banned from cheats another chance and allowed them to rejoin their games in order to play, but nowhere. Matt Perkey called them out on this. Nowhere did they actually say, hey, you cheaters need to have paid up for what you've done wrong to the players who've been fair. Because, look, if the cheaters have not paid up, and even if they say they're sorry, first of all, now we're rewarding cheating behavior by like letting them have the benefit of what they've stolen. And second of all, they can still cheat again because like there's been no penalties. If they're truly sorry, they got to pay up the money that they've stolen from fair players. That's the only way it's being fair to the other players. And then, yeah, fine. Okay, if they've really changed, they can join and play with fair players if it's safe to do so. Then it makes sense. But you can't just be like, oh, yeah, you're forgiven, but you're not accountable. To be accountable is to pay up. Like, that's what accountable means. It's not just, oh, I'm sorry. It's, oh, I'm sorry, and here's repayment for my crimes. That's what accountable means. It seems like GG missed the mark on that, but here in this situation, they really got it, I think, and they really made the right stance. I do think they care about integrity. Stop making the same mistakes because nobody's watching your actual play. At Dojo Live, you're not sitting around learning useless theory. You're applying real practical techniques that work on the table, and I'll be there guiding you myself. Dojo Live takes place in Dallas, Texas, November 15th through the 17th. There's only 20 seats available. That's it. In summary, you can see that Ren Lin was actually accountable for everyone. He paid the price for everyone by being the scapegoat in a way for all the players who had ever like shared any kind of real-time assistance, because no one ever paid ever. And they all took advantage for it. And this guy now paid back $100K, which pays for who knows how many of these people who've done it, and publicly apologized. And now I think it's time to look at ourselves and say, hey, when are we accountable for the mistakes that we've made? Are we innocent? And what are the things that we've gotten away with that we should have paid up for? And I think that it's not fair to say, when are you accountable, and not say, well, when am I accountable for my mistakes and the actions that I've done? I offer for you guys to think the same. Or if you're angry at the cheating that's happened or the scamming or anything like that, think about all the little times that you've done something wrong to help your friends and thought that it was okay. If you have, anyway. And now, in my opinion, it's your turn to turn around and think about all of our turns. I'm not perfect myself. All of our turns to think about what we're accountable for and to make a difference in our own kinds of ways.